Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. A key moderate Democrat pushing back against progressives. He says holding the infrastructure bill hostage won't get his support for the larger social spending bill. Staffing shortages at U.S. prisons. It comes after corrections officers quit during the pandemic, but prison populations are on the rise, leading to added challenges. Polls have opened for the final day in Virginia's governor race, following record numbers of early voting ballots. But election debate is far from over. We hear from a civil rights leader who's denouncing one candidate's plans for teachers. And the Supreme Court about to hear its biggest gun rights case in years. The question, is there a Second Amendment right to carry a firearm in public? And new details are revealed following an incident with a U.S. nuclear-powered submarine. The vessel collided with something last month. We now know what that something was. Today marks the final day for Virginians to vote for their next governor. The state's off-year election has boiled down to a handful of issues, in particular, education policy. Just one day earlier, a civil rights leader denounced Democratic candidate Mcaulife's new teacher hiring plan, calling it racist and insulting.
Polls opened Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. for Virginia's gubernatorial election. More than 1 million voters also cast early ballots, setting a record. Statistics have shown about 53% of those early voters came from Democrats, while GOP voters cast over 30% of them. Prior to the final showdown, a black civil rights veteran condemned Democrat candidate Terry McAuliffe's new approach towards hiring teachers. McAuliffe has repeatedly voiced that more teachers in Virginia's public school system should be non-white. In a recent campaign, he proposed subsidizing candidates and historically black colleges to hire more black faculty. Bob Woodson, the civil rights leader, told media on Monday that it is explicitly and implicitly a racist approach to education. He called the plan insulting because it emphasizes offering special aid to historically black colleges and universities. Woodson believes a good education program depends on presence of excellence rather than color of the skin. Along the same lines, many of Virginia's parent activists accused McAuliffe of deflecting from the real issue, parental rights in education. At the same time, McAuliffe's Republican opponent, Glenn Youngkin, expected his lead to grow after surprisingly good turnout among early voters.
And we are going to win this.
A Fox News poll shows him 8 points ahead of McAuliffe. Youngkin said historically early voters has been over 75% Democrat, but added that this year's reversal suggests a lack of enthusiasm for his opponent. Speaking in a Deli rally Monday evening, former President Donald Trump urged Virginian supporters to get out and vote for Youngkin, noting that this is your chance to break the grip on the radical left.
Arizona Senate President Karen Fann announces she will retire when her current term ends in January 2023. The 67-year-old has worked in public service for 28 years, and she has served as the Arizona Senate President since 2019. Fann oversaw the recent forensic audit of the 2020 election in the state's largest county. During that time, she issued subpoenas requesting Maricopa County turn over 2.1 million ballots, vote counting machines, election department servers, and computers. This audit was carried out by 4 firms. In it, multiple inconsistencies and issues with tens of thousands of ballots were discovered, and the election audit and the national attention it brought did not factor into her decision to retire. That's what Fann told the Associated Press. And last month, she told the news agency she was still considering whether to seek re-election. Some background on Fann: she was the owner and CEO of Arizona Highway Safety Specialists. That's a construction company that installs guardrails and signs on state and local highways throughout Arizona. She sold the company earlier this year. New York City will soon welcome a new mayor. Residents are headed to the polls today to cast their votes, including the candidates themselves. Democratic candidate Eric Adams showed up at his Brooklyn polling station this morning at around 7:30 a.m. He served as the Brooklyn Borough President since 2014 and centered his campaign on boosting public safety following his years as a police captain. Speaking to the media after leaving his polling site, Adams said New Yorkers have been battered and beaten by the failure of the city, but noted the city would survive. Adams' opponent, Republican Curtis Sliwa, was scheduled to vote later this morning in the Upper West Side neighborhood of Manhattan. Sliwa founded the Guardian Angels Civil Patrol and ran on a law and order platform. The winner will take over in January from Democrat Bill de Blasio after his 8 years in the post. The next mayor will oversee a still nascent recovery from the pandemic. They will be called on to confront several deep challenges, including a spike in shootings, a troubled public school system, and a lack of affordable housing. Registered Democratic voters outnumber Republicans in the city by more than a 6-to-1 margin. Today is election day for state and local government. One county in Colorado is taking measures to ensure all votes are secure.
Tuesday's off-year elections feature a host of local contests for mayor, city council, and school board in communities across the country. After the 2020 presidential election and claims of fraud, one city in Jefferson County, Colorado, intends to prove their system works and is secure. In the city of Golden, election officials are busy sorting thousands of mail ballots daily.
So this is where we go out and collect ballots, we bring them back here to our secure facility, and we've got teams of bipartisan judges doing everything from opening those ballots to counting them.
They say there are numerous safeguards in place to ensure that people casting mail ballots are who they say they are and only vote once.
So our signature verification judges go through extensive training that includes an FBI handwriting expert who gives them all they need to know about how to check signatures and make sure that they do match. And then we're regularly auditing our signature verification folks.
In August, an alleged security breach in Mesa County caused a feud among Colorado voting officials.
Democratic Senator Joe Manchin has a message for House progressives. He won't be pressured into agreeing to vote on their social spending plan without understanding it first, so they might as well move ahead with the bipartisan infrastructure bill. NTD's Jessica Beatty has the details.
It's time to pass the bill and quit playing games.
Senator Joe Manchin not mincing words Monday, calling on the House to vote on the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill that the Senate already passed.
It's time our elected leaders in Washington, all of us, stop playing games with the needs of the American people and holding a critical infrastructure bill hostage.
Progressives holding the bill hostage, trying to compel moderate Senators Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema to vote for the larger social spending bill, warning they won't vote for one without the other.
We're tired of, just continuing to wait for one or two people. We trust the president that he will get 51 votes for this, and we will pass both bills through the House as soon as we have these final negotiations wrapped up.
Manchin says he needs more time to understand the new budget deal before agreeing to vote for it. He also accused his party of hiding the real price of the $1.85 trillion bill, saying it's estimated to be almost twice the amount if the full time frame originally proposed for the benefits plays out, or higher if it's extended permanently.
What I see are shell games, budget gimmicks. This is a recipe for economic crisis. None of us should ever misrepresent to the American people what the real cost of legislation is.
Manchin said he's open to supporting a bill that helps the U.S. move forward, but he's equally open to voting against a bill that hurts the country. Despite neither side backing down, the Senate Majority Leader sounds optimistic.
We are still talking and working through important details and making good progress.
To help pay for the social spending plan, the federal government hopes to collect more unpaid taxes. A top Treasury official told Reuters Monday they aim to collect $400 billion in new revenue over the next decade. He says the IRS is planning to do that by hiring more agents, pursuing more audit cases, and updating its systems. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
U.S. prisons are facing staffing shortages. That's because many corrections officers quit during the pandemic. But now conditions are worsening as there are fewer guards and more prisoners. Low pay and difficult work has caused many prison guards to quit during the pandemic, but now prison populations are on the rise. Less guards and more prisoners have led many to say that what was already a difficult job is now unbearable. For example, about 70% of the prison guard jobs in some prisons in Georgia are unfulfilled. There's 4 times as many overtime hours put in Nebraska since 2010, and Florida has closed 3 of its prisons temporarily. Some prisoners under restrictions tell Fox they're unable to attend therapy, work out, shower, or go to classes. This comes as the Los Angeles County Sheriff says he will not enforce a vaccine mandate. He told Fox's Tucker Carlson it would take years to replace those who would have been fired. Sheriff Alex Villanueva, who's a Democrat, says LA has too many crises to lose that many deputies. Meanwhile, a judge in Illinois has paused the vaccine mandate for Chicago police officers, but officers will still have to be tested weekly for the time being. What's more, the Air Force has kicked out 40 recruits. That's because they refused to comply with Biden's vaccine mandate. Speaking to the Stars and Stripes, a spokeswoman said they could still be vaccinated and return to the service. This while the military works on ways to treat those who opt out fairly and equally.
This mandate will be handled in a compassionate way and an understanding way, and that due counseling will be provided both from a medical perspective and from a leadership perspective to members who are declining to take the vaccine.
It comes as a U.S. district judge has ordered the Pentagon to specify how service members can apply for a religious exemption to the vaccine. The Defense Department has until November 12th to file the details. All this while American Airlines canceled 400 flights on Monday. It follows thousands of U.S. flights being canceled over the weekend, and by mid-afternoon on Monday, 500 of its flights were delayed. The airline maintains the disruptions do not stem from their vaccine mandate. Video released by Illinois State Police shows what happened before an inmate was shot by a corrections officer last month. And just a warning here, some viewers may find the footage disturbing due to its graphic nature. The shooting happened on October 26th inside a Mount Vernon courthouse. Footage from the scene captures a deputy helping 55-year-old inmate Frederick Goss into a wheelchair ahead of a jury trial. Goss was not handcuffed. The video then shows him grab the deputy's gun and the two wrestle over the weapon. Another deputy saw what was happening and came to help. That deputy then shot Goss, who dropped the gun. He was taken to the hospital, but Illinois police didn't give an update on his condition. The incident is now under investigation. The Supreme Court is about to hear its biggest gun rights case in years. The ruling could affect who's allowed to carry a gun in their daily lives and where. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
The latest question is whether there's a Second Amendment right to carry a firearm in public. About half a dozen states, including California and several eastern states, determine their own restrictions.
There are absolutely no criteria for what is supposed to be a just cause for having a concealed carry permit. It's up to the whims of the issuing officer in the particular county.
The justices could decide whether those laws, often called may-issue laws, can stand. The case before the justices involves New York law. Since 1913, the Empire State has said that a person has to demonstrate proper cause to carry a concealed handgun in public. The New York State Rifle and Pistol Association and two private citizens challenging the law have told the Supreme Court that the law makes it effectively impossible for an ordinary, law-abiding citizen to obtain a license to carry a handgun for self-defense.
When you get a permit in New York, you have to have three or four personal references. You know, you go through a complete background check. You know, criminals are the ones that are causing the crimes in the cities, not legal gun owners, not lawful people.
The state says its restrictions promote public safety. Gun rights advocates hope that the court, with a 6-3 conservative majority, will rule in their favor and determine New York's law to be too restrictive. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A judge rules accusers in the trial of socialite Ghislaine Maxwell can testify using pseudonyms or first names only. Maxwell is charged with helping Jeffrey Epstein abuse girls. The ruling came after Maxwell was brought into a Manhattan courtroom in shackles for a final pre-trial hearing. At the end of a nearly 4-hour proceeding, a prosecutor said no plea talks had occurred. Maxwell's lawyer said there was no reason for them because her client has committed no crime. Maxwell also said out loud that she has not committed a crime. Maxwell was arrested in July 2020 and has pleaded not guilty to 6 counts of sex trafficking and other crimes. The judge said that she was allowing pseudonyms for several witnesses who are expected to provide explicit and highly sensitive testimony at the trial. She says the anonymity will encourage other victims to come forward. The judge is also allowing prosecutors to refer to accusers as victims during the trial. Convicted killer Robert Durst was indicted yesterday on a separate murder charge in connection with his wife's death. Kathleen McCormick Durst was last seen in 1982. Her body has not been found, and she was declared legally dead in 2017. In September, a Los Angeles jury found Durst guilty of first-degree murder in the death of his friend Susan Berman. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Berman's murder came just hours before she was set to talk to investigators about the mysterious disappearance of Durst's wife. Durst, the subject of HBO docuseries The Jinx, was diagnosed with COVID-19 last month. His former attorney said he is, quote, on death's door. Durst is currently in custody in California, where he stood trial for Berman's murder. A once prominent South Carolina attorney is facing 2 new lawsuits for unpaid loans, including one by his own brother. The suits claim Alex Murdaugh owes more than $523,000. Murdaugh's brother claims over $46,000 has not been repaid. The suit claims that Murdaugh told his brother he needed the money to cover an overdrawn bank account. A second lawsuit was filed by Murdaugh's former law firm partner, John Parker. It seeks repayment of loans totaling almost $500,000. Parker did not disclose the reason why he loaned the money. The loans came in the months immediately before and after Murdaugh's wife and son were murdered outside the family's home. Murdaugh's many victims are now arguing for courts to freeze his assets. They're hoping it will help them get a fair reward in any future civil judgments. Murdaugh is currently jailed in relation to charges he defrauded his former maid's family of millions of dollars. Kyle Rittenhouse, the teenager who shot and killed 2 men and injured another during last summer protests in Wisconsin, his trial started Monday, and jury selection is underway. He's facing several charges, including homicide and attempted homicide. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
Protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin began last year after a white police officer shot a black man, leaving him paralyzed. Kyle Rittenhouse, who is now 18 years old, went to these protests armed with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. During a confrontation, he shot 3 men, killing 2 and injuring another. Rittenhouse was charged with several crimes. Jury selection started today.
Those who are picked for this jury will be in the front row seat to see exactly what happened and make a rational decision based on that. And anybody who's not on board with deciding strictly on the evidence needs to tell us that.
Rittenhouse says he went to the Wisconsin protest to help protect businesses. Prosecutors are expected to argue that Rittenhouse was looking for violent conflict, while the defense is expected to say Rittenhouse was acting in self-defense. More than a dozen potential jurors have been excused from the trial. Lawyers on both sides are probing potential jurors for their political leanings and perceived biases. If convicted for first-degree intentional homicide, Rittenhouse could face life in prison. Jason Perry, NTD News.
A man who threw a Molotov cocktail into a Brooklyn deli on Saturday morning has been arrested. He is charged with several crimes, including arson and assault.
The man at the bottom of the screen lights a Molotov cocktail, quickly walks to the entrance, and throws it into this Brooklyn deli. One employee runs through the flames with his foot on fire and falls to the floor before escaping. And outside the deli, the man lights another Molotov cocktail, but a bystander knocks the flaming bottle out of his hand before he could throw it, lighting the sidewalk on fire. Then another employee jumps over the counter and escapes the burning store. Fortunately, both men were able to walk away with no life-threatening injuries. The New York City Fire Department was called and arrived on the scene within 3 minutes. The man who threw the Molotov cocktail escaped on foot and was later arrested. The 38-year-old suspect's name is Joel Mongol. He is charged with several crimes, including 3 counts of arson, 2 counts of assault, and criminal possession of a weapon. Jason Perry, NTD News.
A high-speed car chase that ends with a shocking jump from a bridge and lands the leaping suspect in hot water, and it was all caught on camera. A dive into jail is what authorities in Lee County, Florida, called this video of a high-speed chase that came to an unexpected conclusion. It starts with authorities pursuing the driver of an allegedly stolen van on a bridge when suddenly the vehicle swerves erratically and crashes. That's when things get really crazy. As officials arrive, the suspect exits the vehicle and then does a diving flip off the 5-story bridge into the river below. Evidently, that's where the suspect's plan ended because F.T. Myers Marine Unit officials were dispatched and took him into custody shortly thereafter. The sheriff's office shared the vid on social media saying he may not have earned a gold medal for his high dive, but he did find himself in hot water. Costa Rica's drug control police seized more than 2,500 packages of cocaine on Monday. The drugs were in a pier in a container in the coastal city of Lyman. Each one of the 2,575 packages contained 2 pounds of apparent cocaine. They were all traveling inside black backpacks. Authorities say they believe the shipment was headed for Europe. The drugs passed through Colombia before reaching Costa Rica. Costa Rica's Minister of Public Security says criminal groups follow structures similar to any other businesses, and so October and November are very busy months for them. The country's drug control police said they seized nearly 35,000 pounds of cocaine from January to November 2021 alone. Just ahead, a California man is in court for allegedly punching a flight attendant. The flight attendant sustained a nosebleed and concussion. A lack of clean water takes a toll on communities throughout California's San Joaquin Valley. In the town of Teviston, taps were laced with a carcinogen. All that and more in just a moment.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
The western United States is experiencing the most severe drought in 125 years of record-keeping, and a lack of clean water is taking a toll on communities throughout the San Joaquin Valley. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
The San Joaquin Valley farm town of Teviston has 2 wells. One is dried up, and the other is contaminated. The one functioning well failed just at the start of summer, depriving the hot and dusty town of running water for weeks, with temperatures routinely soaring above 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
My name is Frank Galvez. I've lived in Teviston for 20 years. In June, due to the drought, our well failed, and the whole community was out of water.
Farm workers bathed with buckets after toiling in the nearby vineyards and almond orchards. Teviston's 400 to 700 people have received bottled drinking water since the well failed in June.
It is very difficult not having drinking water. I came here from far away, thinking that this kind of thing would never happen here, and now we're facing reality.
For years, the water coming from Teviston taps has been laced with the carcinogen 1,2,3-trichloropropane, or 1,2,3-TCP, a synthetic chemical. Teviston won a $3 million settlement in June from pesticide producers Dow Chemical Company and Shell Oil Company that will pay for a water treatment plant.
Without the farmers, we don't have a job. You know, that's their livelihood. going out picking grapes or harvesting, except working in the dairies. You know, we have to have the farmers, we have to have the dairies, we have to have all this. It all goes hand in hand.
By the 1990s, health officials established that TCP was carcinogenic and would linger in the water table for a lifetime unless removed by filtration. In March, testing showed the TCP level was more than 7 times the limit, according to the state's Safe Drinking Water Information System. In September, Teviston showed a negligible amount, but experts say the results could be skewed by the new well or the extreme drought. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
The Outside Lands Festival concluded its annual music show in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park over the weekend, but it seems the show isn't quite over yet. The City Ethics Committee released a report saying the festival may have been using a department as a middleman to give tickets to city officials. We hear more from NTD's David Lamb.
Outside Lands is a large music festival that draws in tens of thousands of people each year. Tickets can range from $165 to nearly $900 for the 3-day event. It was canceled last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and attendees were required to show proof of vaccine or negative test results this year. The event brings in modern acts such as Nelly, Childish Gambino, and Lil Wayne. The performance caused controversy in the city government recently. In September, the San Francisco Ethics Commission reported that city officials received over 1,400 free tickets to Outside Lands Music Festival from 2015 to 2019. The tickets were valued at approximately $315,000. The Ethics Commission stated that this practice of gift-giving is problematic because in order to prevent preferential treatment, the festival organizer, Another Planet Entertainment, is restricted from giving free tickets to city officials. But the city's Recreation and Park Department is able to. This is part of the Commission's efforts to evaluate fair practices among organizations. The Commission suggested new laws calling for more transparency and conduct on gift giving. The Recreation and Parks Department did not respond to requests for comment. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
In Houston, a new kind of professional is taking care of landscaping. The Department of Public Works is using goats to tackle the overgrowth. NTD's Chenny Wu has more.
High weeds and grass are no match for these chompers. The Houston Department of Public Works is using 150 goats in a new pilot program to replace traditional mowing. The goats will be supervised 24/7 and graze for up to 12 hours a day. Officials say this program has been successful in at least 5 other cities.
It's very effective because, as you can see, they have it here only for a couple of days, and there is very good portion of the pond that is already getting lower in vegetation, and they eat continuously.
The program may also be saving lives. According to the NIH, there are roughly 85,000 lawn mowing accidents annually. Now we can leave the difficult terrains to the goats.
This is heaven for them. They actually love to eat.
If the city deems the program a success, we might just see more of these goats at work. Chenny Wu, NTD News.
A third giraffe has died at the Dallas Zoo in less than a month. The zoo says Jesse, a 14-year-old male giraffe, died on October 29th. He fell ill 2 days prior to his death. A blood test showed Jesse had abnormal liver enzymes. His death could be linked to the death of another giraffe, 19-year-old Augie, who passed on October 22nd. Augie's death was first reported as age-related health issues that led to liver failure. The zoo is investigating. Yet another giraffe that passed was a 3-month-old calf. She had to be euthanized last month after getting injured while running with adult giraffes in their habitat. We now know what a U.S. nuclear-powered submarine struck in the South China Sea early last month. An investigation has revealed the USS Connecticut hit an uncharted underwater mountain. The sub was operating in the contested waterway when it grounded on the seamound on October 2nd. Some crew members suffered injuries, but none were life-threatening. The Seawolf-class sub had some damage, but remained fully operational. Even so, the incident forced the sub to head to Guam for repairs. The Navy says the command investigation has been submitted to the commander of the 7th Fleet for review. He will then decide if there should be any follow-up actions, including accountability. Recent video captured in China's Hubei province has scared netizens. It shows two boys jumping back and forth between the rooftops of 27-story buildings. A nearby resident took the video. It shows one boy starting to walk while holding onto a nearby railing. He then took a standing jump position and launched himself toward the narrow roof of another building. After he landed, he staggered, then and jumped back again. No visible safety measures were in place. Many Chinese netizens described breaking out in a cold sweat while watching the clip. One even said they were so scared their legs went weak. Shanghai Disneyland is now closed indefinitely as of Monday. That's due to a positive case discovered in the park over the weekend. Meanwhile, the virus may have even infiltrated the Chinese Communist Party's headquarters in Beijing. NTD's Evelyn Lee has more.
Shanghai Disneyland virus tested all 33,000 of its visitors Sunday evening. That's after authorities discovered an individual carrying the Chinese Communist Party virus that causes COVID-19 had visited the park. For hours, tens of thousands of families were stuck inside the theme park. They weren't allowed to leave until negative test results came back. And the resort was also surrounded by virus prevention personnel. China follows what it calls a zero-case policy when it comes to its approach to handling the pandemic. That means that when just one confirmed case is found, everyone in the area will be put under strict quarantine or lockdown or made to get tested. Unlike China, many other countries have instead loosened their restrictions and don't employ such harsh measures. But in Shanghai, Disneyland is now closed until further notice. And Beijing just started the 100-day countdown to the Winter Olympics last week, but the pandemic is causing a lot of concern. The CCP virus may have spread to the most important location in China, the area housing the central headquarters of the Chinese Communist Party, or Zhongnanhai in Beijing. And that's despite authorities' strict virus prevention and control measures. After new virus cases were reported in Beijing, authorities are implementing shutdowns and mandatory virus testing for locals. In the district where Zhongnanhai is located, all theaters are closed, and all performances and screenings are canceled. Meanwhile, close to Zhongnanhai in the Forbidden City area, locals are lining up en masse for virus testing. Chinese state leaders, including Xi Jinping and other top CCP officials, carry out many of their administrative activities in Zhongnanhai. The term is often analogous with the CCP leadership, in the same sense that the term White House refers to the U.S. executive branch. A new U.S. intelligence report reveals new details about the government's stance on the pandemic. It says more intelligence agencies support the view of the pandemic beginning naturally than the possibility of it leaking from a lab. But due to a lack of key information, no theory can currently be proven. According to the report, if the virus did come from a lab, it was likely an accident that caused the leak, and that researchers in the Wuhan lab probably were not aware of its existence at the time. Earlier this year, the World Health Organization criticized Beijing for withholding key data collected in the early days of the pandemic in Wuhan. What's more, the new report says Beijing will likely continue blocking a global investigation into the virus's origin. In the conclusion of the report, U.S. intelligence agencies say they may never be able to identify the origins of COVID-19.
Coming up, 2,000 beers tested for taste at this year's Brussels Beer Challenge. 75 self-described beer geeks fly in from around the world to ply the poison. Find out more when we return.
The worst genocide in human history also destroyed the lives of thousands of Jewish survivors still suffering today.
God calls on people who believe in Him to act on His word. Comfort ye, comfort my people.
Especially during this holiday season of Hanukkah.
When I come here and I sit with Lily, I realize what she needs right now is food.
These elderly Jews are weak and they're sick. They're living on $2 a day. This now is how God's children are living. Take this time to send a survival food box to these forgotten Jews.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews urgently need your gift of $25 now to help provide one survival food box with all of the essentials they critically need for their diet for 1 month.
Your special holiday gift will provide everything they need to celebrate the miracle of Hanukkah.
This is the first time in over 70 years that she has anything to do with faith. The communists came and wiped it out.
Your grandparents?
And now we're coming to her and we're saying, it's okay to have faith. It's okay to light the Hanukkah candles.
For just $25, you can help supply the essential foods they desperately need for 1 month.
For over 35 years, this trusted ministry has given Christians like me a way to tangibly bless Jewish people who are in need throughout the world.
God tells us to take care of them, to feed the hungry. And I pray Holocaust survivors will be given the basic needs that they so desperately pray for to survive.
Now to Russia, where a museum inside a former prison tells the stories of people who were persecuted within its own walls. The prison is known for its role in carrying out the Great Terror under Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. NTD's Neil Woodrow brings us more.
This basement in the Siberian city of Tomsk used to be the prison of the People's Commissariat for Internal Affairs, or NKVD, the much feared secret police in Soviet Russia of the 1930s and 40s. The Tomsk Memorial Museum has recreated the terrifying atmosphere of an investigative prison.
There is a cell for investigations, where a person can feel himself or herself in that state, and in the investigator's office, either as the arrested person or as the investigator himself. Our museum has a memorial character, and our task was to immerse a person in the atmosphere of those years.
Founded in 1989, it was the first museum of the history of political repression in the post-Soviet country. Karnevich says they created the museum to see history not repeated.
So that the value of human life is the most important and the main thing. Not some state goals, the restoration of power, fear of the empire, or the restoration of the empire, but the price of human life.
The prison is known for its role in carrying out the Great Terror under Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. The museum displays photographs of some who were executed.
In 1937-38, during the years of the Great Terror, about 11 national operations of the NKVD took place, when people were arrested based on their ethnicity and accused of espionage and counter-revolutionary activities in favor of a particular state.
Thousands of Poles, Estonians, Latvians and other nationalities in the Tomsk region went through repressions and mass deportations during the Soviet years. The museum has a database of almost 200,000 people, a fraction of the total number of prisoners in Tomsk. A map on the floor shows the scope of the Soviet network of forced labour camps. Items on display include copies and original documents of investigative cases, as well as photo albums, embroideries, paintings and drawings. Most items were gifted to the museum by relatives of former prisoners.
Thanks to them, our unique museum in Russia was created, which is located in a former remand prison. Apart from these handcuffs, they donated everything here. These are real items.
The tour guide explains what was done to prisoners.
They shot them in the yard and buried the corpses in the pits here. So the pits were large, deep, up to 3-5 meters. These corpses were covered with pine needles after each shooting. And then, of course, when the pit was filled, they just sprinkled it with soil, and that's all.
The museum continues to find the names of those who were repressed and remembers them. Neil Woodrow, NTD News.
20-time Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal hit shots with the man who holds the Guinness record for the world's oldest tennis player. At 97 years old, it's hard for him to find a worthy opponent his age. 97-year-old Leonid Stanislavski from Ukraine keeps a regular tennis practice schedule and still competes in tournaments. The friendly game with Nadal took place at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain. It was a dream come true for Stanislavski. He was in Spain to participate in the 2021 Super Seniors World Championship. For the first time, the International Tennis Federation introduced a 90 and over age group at Stanislavski's request. Stanislavski started playing tennis when he was 30. Since then, he was trained 3 times a week. If you like European beers or beers in general, then this contest might pique your interest. An international panel in Belgium is getting to work testing almost 2,000 beers. Here's NTD's Arian Pastar with more.
For most people, 9 a.m. is too early to start drinking. But for competition jurors at the Brussels Beer Challenge, the sooner the better. These experts say the taste buds are unspoiled and the mind is most rested in the morning. That's important as the process of ranking dozens of beers per day requires some concentration. The panel consists of 75 international experts flown into Belgium from as far away as Brazil and the United States.
It's like the Olympic Games for beer. The beers are the athletes, but so are the tasters, as they're tasting about 40 beers a day.
At table 6, a panel of 6 jurors started the day with fruit beers. No easy feat, as the drinks' characters vary widely. They're judged by certain criteria, just like what's done at dog shows.
You know how the dogs have their own breeds, have their own things that they have to kind of be measured against. This is the same sort of thing. These beers are measured by certain styles, so that's what we're looking for.
The tasting happens in semi-silence to avoid distractions. Across the quiet table, Swiss beer importer Jan Emstein said he was also motivated by commercial considerations.
We ask ourselves, would I drink this beer? That's also important. We're beer geeks, we're fans. But at the end of the day, the product has to be drinkable.
The contest is now in its 10th year. It received nearly 4 times as many entrants for the latest event as for the first. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
A healthy eating plan for diabetics isn't as complex as you might think. In fact, it looks almost exactly like one for people without diabetes. Here's Gina Marie, who brings us Strong Mind and Body.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. Diabetes should change the way you eat. Managing blood sugar can become a life or death situation. Diabetics have a much higher risk for heart disease and other heart-related risks than the general population. Tack on the risk of losing vision and limbs and you can imagine why controlling the condition is so important. But a healthy eating plan for diabetics isn't as complicated as you think. In fact, it looks almost exactly like one for people without diabetes. The American Diabetes Association repeats the dietary guidelines suggested for everybody else, so build your diet around fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and low-fat dairy products. Of course, there is one thing you'll need to do that the general population might not. Pay attention to your carbohydrate intake. But even then, your intake won't vary too much from recommendations for the general population. Most diabetics should keep carbohydrate intake to around 45 to 55% of total daily calories. Those carbs should be coming from the sources I just mentioned, not refined grains, sugary snacks or beverages, white bread or pasta. Choosing fiber-rich carbohydrates is the best move for people hoping to manage blood sugar. Why? Because it has big benefits for blood sugar and your heart. Research suggests that soluble fiber, the kind found in fruit, oats, beans, and dried peas, may be effective in lowering blood sugar by improving insulin sensitivity. This could mean you need less medicine to manage your condition. Insoluble fiber, the kind in whole grains, may help manage cholesterol levels, which can lower blood pressure and reduce the risk of heart trouble. So what would a daily diet look like? Unsweetened oats with nuts and berries for breakfast, a piece of fruit for a mid-morning snack, and maybe some plain non-fat yogurt. Lunch can be a chicken or tuna salad or a sandwich on whole grain bread with nuts and carrot sticks as a mid-afternoon snack. Dinner could be some meat or fish with a side of green beans and sweet potatoes. Those are a few ideas on how you can manage your diabetes with diet.
The latest Marvel movie hits theaters this weekend, featuring a group of heroes who started long before Iron Man, Captain America, and the rest. Let's take a look at Eternals.
We have helped them progress and seen them accomplish wonders.
Eternals have nurtured humanity for 7,000 years.
We have never interfered until now.
Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao went from indie films to the MCU.
I had to pitch for it, and we both have to look at each other and go, there's something about what you're offering we really want. And that's when I have the project.
Ajak, played by Salma Hayek, leads the team.
I had given up on the hope of Marvel noticing that I existed, and it was just amazing.
The diverse cast includes Lauren Ridloff as the MCU's first deaf superhero.
I love that my deafness is not seen as, a driving point to a story. It's just, it's just an asset.
And Kumail Nanjiani as its first South Asian superhero.
I wanted him to be the opposite of most of the opportunities that I'd gotten and most of the opportunities that brown men have gotten in Hollywood. So usually either we played terrorists, I wanted him to be full of joy, the opposite of that, or we're nerds and I wanted him to be cool, or we're weak and I wanted him to be strong. So I just sort of was like, what is something that I haven't gotten to do that we don't usually get to do? Let's be the opposite of all that.
Between the heroics, we see the friendships, which the cast formed off-screen as well, most of them.
I don't think I was really expecting to come out of this with so many incredible friendships. I mean, I really got to know everyone so well.
Yeah, I made no friends on this movie.
Excuse me?
Apart from you. We became friends.
Yeah,
we became friends.
Okay.
We've loved these people since the day we arrived. When you love something, you protect it.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Before you go, here's something you should know. Don't forget you can catch all of NTD's programs on television. NTD Business premieres live Mondays through Fridays at 5 p.m. We broadcast to many of your favorite platforms, Apple TV and Roku, for example. We're also rapidly growing on cable, satellite, and over-the-air all across the United States. Just go to ntd.com/TV, type in your zip code, and find all the ways you can watch NTD.